There's one more movement that comes out of the modern period for us to talk about, and that's a movement called Dada or Dadaism. Don't be too worked up about the word Dada or Dadaism. It doesn't mean anything. Dada in German is like saying blah blah in English. It doesn't mean anything. Completely meaningless. It's a movement of complete nihilism, a belief in nothingness, a belief in nothing, complete cynicism and nihilism. And of all the movements so far that we've talked about, the one that's most critical of Western culture. A good place to start is with Marcel Duchamp, figure A10 in your textbooks. In a lot of ways, Duchamp is the founder, certainly the central figure of Dada. You see what Duchamp's done here. He's taken the Mona Lisa, arguably the most famous painting in Western culture, and defaced it, drawn a mustache and a goatee on the painting. And then at the bottom, has written some letters there that if you pronounce them the way that the French pronounce those letters, you end up pronouncing a dirty word. There's two parts to Dada. First of all, you have to have a humorous part, sense of humor, and I guess I can see at least the attempted humor of having the Mona Lisa subjected to subway vandalism and someone running up and drawing a mustache and a goatee on the Mona Lisa. At least I see the attempted humor there. But then comes the serious part, and that is a serious attack on Western culture, an attack on everything that's come before in the course. Duchamp has taken arguably the most famous painting of an entire culture, and what's he done to it? He's ridiculed it, mocked it, destroyed it, damaged it, vandalized it. Duchamp says Western culture is a failure, and that it deserves to be ridiculed and mocked. That's accomplished nothing but this cultural crisis. The whole thing has collapsed. And this cultural self-hatred, like I said, kind of an interesting psychological issue. At one point, Duchamp entered a sculpting contest, which surprised his friends because he really wasn't much of a sculptor. It also surprised his friends what contest he entered, because the rules of the contest were that whoever presented a sculpture which best reflected the values of Western culture would win the contest. And of course, Duchamp's friends knew that he despised his own culture. Well, the morning of the culture, Duchamp leaves home with a hammer and a chisel. He stops by a public restroom, knocks a urinal off the wall, and presents that as his sculpture, which he signs with a pseudonym R. Mutt, 1917. Well, I guess I see the attempted humor. I guess a urinal kind of is like a sculpture. It has shape and form and that kind of thing. So at least I see the attempted humor there. But then you have the pretty biting attack. I mean, it's obvious what Duchamp says deserves to be done to Western culture, to the values of Western culture. You have that kind of sharp attack mixed in with the humor. Another artist who kind of blends between Dada and Surrealism, Rene Magritte. You have Man with a Newspaper, figure A11 in your supplement. Here we have an example of French humor. The title is Man with a Newspaper, but the man only appears in 1/4 of the painting. I'm told this is just hilarious in French. It's French humor, what can I say? The French aren't primarily known for exporting their humor. Mimes, I guess. But Magritte does have some stuff that does work. He is rather clever, and if not all of his work really works for an American sense of humor, I mean, this is just the way the world works, right? You've been around enough to know that different nationalities, different ethnic groups, and so on have different kinds of humor. If you've seen British comedies on TV, you know that British sitcoms and American sitcoms are very different from each other. There's a different kind of humor. When it comes to slapstick kind of comedy, you know, Monty Python isn't like Saturday Night Live. They're different types of humor. I mean, if you want to make a British audience fall down on the floor laughing, you put an old man in a dress. Old man in a dress, and the Brits are cracking up, and Americans kind of go, it's an old man in a dress. You know, there's just different types of humor, okay? There are jokes that are funny in Spanish that aren't funny in English and so on. Well, this is French humor. But some of his stuff does work. Some of Magritte's stuff does work. Here, for example, a very famous painting by Magritte. Take a look at it. It's a pipe, tobacco pipe. But then on the painting, he writes, directly onto the painting in French, he writes, "Ce n'est pas une pipe," or "This is not a pipe." No, it's not a pipe. What is it? It's a picture of a pipe. It's a painting of a pipe. And that's that kind of gotcha universal kind of humor, okay? Okay, I guess you got me. It's not a pipe. But then what is it? That's the serious part, you see. Well, then what is it? I mean, we all called it a pipe, but then, of course, we realize it's not a pipe. How much dishonesty is just built into the human condition? How many times have I lied to you this semester telling you that if you go to page 87, you'll see a painting by... And I haven't shown you a single painting all semester. I've shown you photographs of paintings. I haven't shown you any sculptures. I've shown you photographs of sculptures. And yet none of you are all that upset about it. Because we all understand there's just some dishonesty that's built into the human condition. How much lying do we just kind of accept as being part of being human? And, well, how do we deal with the fact that there's some dishonesty that's just kind of built into the system? Well, the problem of communication is one that's going to come up in our next session.